It's Saturday, July 18th, 2026. You're listening to the DX Today AI Daily Brief. Today, China's Moonshot AI releases the largest open weight model in history. Apple overtakes Nvidia as the world's most valuable company. And the legal battle between Apple and OpenAI escalates with warnings sent to 40 former employees. Let's get into it.
Chinese lab Moonshot AI has released Kimi K3, the largest open weight model ever published. The system arrived overnight into Friday as a quiet update to the company's platform, carrying roughly 2.8 trillion total parameters, a 1 million token context window, native vision, and always-on reasoning. It ships in two variants with API pricing of $3 per million input tokens and $15 for output. And Moonshot has promised the full model weights by July 27. Early independent evaluations place the model in the same tier as leading closed systems from American labs and near the top of several coding leaderboards. The release intensifies pricing pressure on closed model providers, since enterprises will soon be able to host a frontier-scale model entirely on their own infrastructure.
Now to Shanghai.
Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered the opening keynote of the 2026 World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai on Friday, his first appearance at the event since it began in 2018. Xi positioned China as a cooperative partner to developing nations, promoted open-source development, and described unequal access to artificial intelligence as an injustice. The conference, which runs through July 20th, doubles this year as a high-level meeting on global governance, drawing more than 1,100 exhibitors, a record for the event. The speech comes as Beijing backs a new intergovernmental body, the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization, headquartered in Shanghai. Analysts say the message is aimed squarely at the many nations sitting outside the Western governance framework.
Markets made history Friday.
Apple reclaimed its position as the world's most valuable publicly traded company in Friday, surpassing Nvidia in market capitalization. Apple shares advanced while several semiconductor names pulled back after an extended rally driven by artificial intelligence spending. The company's market value now sits near $4.9 trillion, approaching the $5 trillion threshold, just ahead of Nvidia. Analysts say the shift reflects renewed investor confidence in Apple's hardware ecosystem and its distribution advantage, a global installed base of iPhones, Macs, and services that could become a massive delivery network for AI features. The change does not signal collapsing demand for AI chips. Rather, investors are reassessing whether companies that own direct consumer relationships deserve valuations as rich as the firms supplying the silicon underneath the boom.
The sell-off went deeper.
Semiconductor stocks sold off sharply on Friday. The Nasdaq fell 1.4%, and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dropped close to 5% during the session, with Intel, AMD, and Nvidia all declining. The trigger was partly Taiwan Semiconductor, which posted record quarterly results this week, but raised its capital spending plans beyond what some investors expected, feeding worries about whether the enormous AI build-out will generate returns that justify the cost. Market watchers stress that the pullback looks like profit-taking after a historic run, rather than evidence of deteriorating demand. Chip makers up triple digits this year fell hardest, while fundamentals across the supply chain, record revenue, and rising guidance remain intact. The next major test arrives in early August when quarterly earnings from AMD land.
Over to Google now.
Alphabet shares slid another 2.2% on Friday, extending Thursday's 4.4% drop that erased more than $200 billion in market value. The decline followed a Bloomberg report that Google's flagship model, Gemini 3.5 Pro, is running months behind schedule after internal testing showed shortfalls in coding and complex reasoning. Friday brought a symbolic moment as well. July 17th had circulated widely as the model's rumored launch date, and the day came and went without a release, a model card, or a pricing page. The model has now missed several reported internal targets. Google still commands a formidable AI stack, from custom chips to billions of user accounts, but investors are increasingly focused on execution at the frontier of model development.
Now to streaming.
Netflix shares dropped more than 7% on Friday as investors digested the company's second quarter results, which arrived alongside a notable disclosure about artificial intelligence. The company said generative AI tools have been used in roughly 300 titles on the platform, mostly in post-production work such as visual effects and crowd scenes. One documentary series included about 17 minutes of AI-enhanced footage the company says was produced twice as fast and at half the cost of conventional methods. Revenue for the quarter came in at $12.56 billion, up more than 13% from a year earlier. But guidance disappointed Wall Street. The disclosure makes Netflix one of the clearest large-scale examples of generative AI moving into mainstream entertainment production.
Turning to Meta.
Meta is hiring Dave Brown, one of Amazon Web Services' most senior computing executives, to help lead its rapidly expanding artificial intelligence infrastructure. The Wall Street Journal reported the move on Friday, and Amazon's cloud chief confirmed the departure in an internal memo. Brown spent nearly 19 years at Amazon, most recently overseeing major parts of compute and machine learning services, and he will report to Meta's infrastructure head, Santosh Janardhan, when he joins in August. Meta plans capital spending of as much as $145 billion this year, much of it for servers, networking, and power. The hire also fuels speculation that Meta could eventually sell computing services to outside companies, an offering that would put it in direct competition with the established cloud giants.
Next, Microsoft.
Microsoft is preparing to release an artificial intelligence cybersecurity product internally known as Project Perception, according to reporting Friday from The Information. The system is designed to detect and fix software vulnerabilities using models from Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropic, with a routing layer that selects the best model for each security task based on performance, speed, and cost. The product could launch as soon as this month. The move is seen partly as a response to Anthropic's growing influence in security, where its models have shown advanced abilities in finding software flaws and analyzing malicious code. Microsoft brings a distribution advantage through Azure, Windows, GitHub, and its enterprise Salesforce, positioning itself as the platform that manages security workflows, no matter which lab's model leads the benchmarks.
Now, a legal escalation.
The legal fight between Apple and OpenAI escalated on Friday. The Financial Times reported that Apple has sent personal legal warnings to roughly 40 former employees who now work at OpenAI, instructing them to preserve documents and prepare to meet with company lawyers. The warnings follow Apple's trade secrets lawsuit filed earlier this month against OpenAI and two former staffers over alleged misappropriation of hardware secrets. The complaint names OpenAI's chief hardware officer and a technical staffer, both former Apple employees, alleging one emailed himself confidential supplier data before departing. OpenAI has said it is reviewing the allegations and has found no grounds supporting the lawsuit. The dispute lands at a delicate moment as OpenAI builds out a consumer hardware team ahead of an expected public offering.
To San Francisco.
San Francisco City. Attorney David Chu has sent cease and desist letters to Apple and Google demanding the removal of 13 AI-powered nudify and face swap applications from their app stores. Officials say the apps are overwhelmingly used to create non-consensual sexual images targeting women and girls, in violation of California laws prohibiting services that support deepfake pornography. 8 of the named apps were distributed through the App Store and 5 through Google Play. Google said it had already removed the 5 flagged apps along with hundreds of similar ones, while Apple said it removed 3 and is terminating developer accounts tied to others. The action targets the distribution layer itself, arguing that companies operating the primary gateways for mobile software bear responsibility for policing applications that enable predictable harm.
Back to Shanghai hardware.
Huawei is showcasing its Atlas 950 SuperPoD computing system at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai, putting China's most advanced homegrown AI infrastructure on display as the event opened this week. The system links more than 8,000 of Huawei's Ascend processors into a single computing cluster for large-scale training and inference, built entirely on domestic silicon under United States export restrictions. Commercial availability is scheduled for the fourth quarter of this year. The demonstration is aimed at Chinese labs that cannot import restricted hardware and at delegations from developing nations deciding whose technology stack to adopt. Independent benchmarks of Chinese accelerators remain scarce, and how close the system comes to Nvidia's top clusters is contested. But for buyers locked out of American hardware, close enough is increasingly enough.
And finally, today's hackathon.
400 developers are gathering in Silicon Valley today for a voice AI hackathon powered by travel technology company Sabre and voice platform Vocal Bridge, alongside education group Deep Learning AI. The goal is ambitious. Participants will work to make the fragmented world of travel planning, flights, lodging, dining, and activities function as a single voice-driven conversation instead of a maze of disconnected applications. Sabre is contributing its travel APIs, while Vocal Bridge supplies the voice layer that ties them together. The event reflects a broader industry push toward agentic AI, where software can plan and book an entire trip from one spoken request. Roughly 400 participants were accepted for the one-day event in Mountain View, with winning projects expected to be showcased later this year.
That's your briefing for Saturday, July 18th, 2026. For DX Today, stay curious.